It's an interesting story that goes back now many, many months, but it's been a while since he pled guilty here to misconduct in office. It's been actually about 3 months. It was supposed to be a sentencing this past week. That was delayed. Let's get some perspective on this from our good friend Andrew Abood. You hear the rejoins here brought to you by, it's the same guy, Andrew Abood, Abood Law Firm. Always good to have you on the show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
Well, were you surprised that it's taken so long to get to the sentencing and there was another delay? I think he pled guilty first week roughly of August.
Well, our legal system isn't really known for its speed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a sprint. They want to get it right, and it sounded like there were issues that wanted to be briefed. This is a good, experienced judge. He's been around a long time, and there's not really a rush as far as it being done today or next week. So
the headlines were, Andrew. The headlines were yelling that he might avoid jail time. What's your take on that overall?
I think that we're beyond the point of what is right or fair. So at this point, you're going to make some people happy, and there's going to be a bunch of people that aren't happy. Stewart has certainly paid a significant price for his misdeeds, more so than anybody else in his position. And whether he gets jail time or not is significant to him, but I don't know that it's significant to anybody else as far as, that it's going to send a message not to do this.
You don't think so at this point?
No, I mean, if I think that if he gets jail time, it'll make some people mad or make some people happy. I think that he certainly paid a significant price.
Did he
already?
Can some people though make an argument, and a credible one, that he's been given? It was the time off for, there was a delay here for treatment. In this case, that he was an out-of-state treatment, that is, for addiction, that he was given special treatment. Could that argument be made credibly?
I mean, you could make the argument. I don't know that it's credible. We're in this state, in almost every state, you have individualized sentencing. You have individualized cases. So, is it unusual that in the course of a case that somebody seek treatment? No, it happens all the time. Is it unusual that it happens out of state? I mean, I think it would have been very hard for him to get any kind of confidentiality had he done it in state. So I don't know in today's modern day with the ease of travel that him going out of state was that big a deal.
Do you feel yourself, and you're involved in the legal world of Michigan day in, day out, and out of state as well with your travels and your cases and your clients you've worked for, do you get any sense here that, you've mentioned first, let's get it right, the legal system moves slow, it takes time, but also a sense of let's get on with it and move on, because this has been kind of an albatross around the neck locally here too, and everybody's talking about we need to talk about other things.
Do I get that sense?
Yeah. Do you get that sense that the legal community here would like to get this also done and move on? Since you have an interim prosecutor not handling this right now in Ingham, since you have a new elected prosecutor, that there's a sense of let's get things moving on.
Well, I don't think that Stewart's. I don't think that's the case with Stewart. I mean, I think there was a bigger deal last week that we're all happy is that behind us and moving on. I mean, with the national election, there's been a lot of other things to focus on. At
True.
least for me. I mean, the football team loses 7 games in a row. It's certainly a different fall than what it's been. And I don't want to compare Stewart's situation to a losing football team, but it certainly does. There's a lot of things that affect morale. And I think Stewart's case for the general public has been out of sight, out of mind. The office itself seems to run, it's a ship that sails in the proper direction 99% of the time, and has been moving that way since his departure.
In other words, it's bigger than one person, right?
Way bigger than one person.
But let's talk about one person, the new incoming prosecutor here, Carol Seam. What's your background with her? What's your take on her overall? Because she says she's going to run a progressive shop when it comes to prosecuting and trying to put people behind bars or see them found guilty, which is the job in the adversarial system, and also the truth. Also the truth. What about that outlook? What's your take on that?
I mean, you got to wonder whether it's politics or policy. I mean, what do you do with some of the cases that get in the paper that are pretty tragic, and how do you resolve those for, what might be different kinds of sentencing? I mean, I think it's an interesting thing. I think that she was supported by a lot of people. I don't really have a history with her.
Mm-hmm.
She was out of the prosecutor's office by the time I really got up and running as a lawyer. So, and our paths haven't crossed. She looks familiar. I've met her during the course of events over the last few months, and I think she'll do a good job from what I hear. And she, has the support of a lot of good people. So, I look forward to working with her and supporting her. I do like the idea that what Billy brought up and what is mentioned, the idea of modifying our indigent defense system. It's been sort of a mantra of mine for close to 10 years that it needs to change, and I liked that, and I hope that as the elected prosecutor she could move to assist that, because I think there's a significant problem with our court-appointed system here in Ingham County.
And you're not the only one. We've talked about that before, that the system, and you find people across the board who say it's broken, Andrew, but with different ideas on how to go about fixing it, and I guess that's part of the slowdown, isn't it?
Well, sometimes when I have young associates in my office, and they're not sure what to do, I often tell them, you just need to do something. You get paid to act, and you're right, there's a lot of different ways to try and fix something, but we do nothing. We have done nothing. It's been the same since I've been in practice. It's been exactly the same. And so it shouldn't be a paralyzing thing where we can't do anything. And the victor has been injustice here.
Well, and we know that lawyers aren't going to get rich doing those cases in the way it's set up, but that isn't the question. The question is, are people who are indigent getting a quality defense? And if the answer is no,
that's not even a question.
Well, no, but that's the one. If you answer no to that, then you got to proceed with trying to reform, don't you?
How can they get a fair trial? Why should any defense lawyer have to go to the judge to ask whether an expert should be appointed? When you look at just the raw numbers and the number of experts that get appointed by the prosecutor, it's exponential, the difference. And the big problem, I don't want to waste all our time. The big problem is that when a judge sees most of the cases get resolved by court-appointed lawyers who maybe not spending the time and effort, that's their sense of justice. That's their sense of fairness. And then when a retained lawyer comes in and wants to take a different track, they're the outlier, and that's when it becomes difficult. So it's not that it just affects the indigent; it affects everybody's sense of justice.
It's and it's a weighty topic, and we'll dig back into it. And now, as you correctly foreshadowed, we're out of time. Appreciate you coming on, talking about this as always, Andrew Abood.